Hello and welcome to The Cosmic Nomad. I'm your host, Bailey Rushlow, and this is a space for the curious and the heart-led, where we explore the human experience through travel, nature, spirituality, and real-life transformation through beautiful conversations. As I discover my way of living what I call an inspired life, I share the practices, stories, and perspectives that have helped guide me back to myself. In today's episode, I'm going to be sharing 6 things that traveling the world has taught me about being human. Okay, so we have been on a journey in this podcast so far, very internal, through my internal world, hopefully mirroring your internal world as well. I've been getting some incredibly insightful and beautiful messages from you, which I'm so grateful for. Please don't stop doing that. Don't stop leaving comments and reviews, sending me DMs, sending me emails. I'm loving it. I'm loving seeing the reflection. We've been on this inward journey, right? Of through the mind, through the subconscious, through the cycles, through the body, and now we're moving out into the world of travel. And it's still going to be about, of course, our relationship with travel and how that affects us internally, but we have to go somewhere to experience the world. Even if go somewhere means walk out your front door, right? It's impossible to do these things just from the comfort of your own home. It does require some bravery. It does require a leap of faith. And I'm going to start today with a little story that happened this week. So I was sitting on the beach last night with some new friends, and one of the guys said to me, "Travel is not a reward for working. It's an education for living." And I looked at him and I said, "Anthony Bourdain?" And he goes, "Yeah, Anthony Bourdain. How did you know?" And I was like, "Of course I know." If you don't know Anthony Bourdain, he's a world-renowned chef, author, world traveler who documented his journeys. And I love his quotes and his perspective about travel because that's exactly how I feel about it. It is not a reward for working. It's an education for living. It's like a balm for my soul to hear these words. He also has another quote that he said, travel changes you. As you move through this life and this world, you change things slightly. You leave marks behind, however small. And in return, life and travel leave marks on you. Most people are taught to see travel as a short escape, like a 1-week whirlwind trip somewhere of sightseeing and selfies and souvenirs, and you return home exhausted. And then you end up with this quote of, "I need a vacation from my vacation," right? And there's nothing wrong with that kind of trip. That kind of trip can be wonderful, and there's a place and time for that too. But I also feel that travel can be so much more than just a break from our routine. And in this episode, I want to explore the kind of travel that shifts your perspective, the kind that actually changes how you see the world and how you see yourself in the world. Since 2021, I have spent about 5 months of each year traveling abroad, learning through experience and being humbled and challenged and just cracked wide open in my heart and deeply, deeply inspired. And I love when strangers tell me, "I can tell that you've traveled." And that reflection means so much to me because this path has shaped me in a way that a classroom or a 1-week trip somewhere never could. And I'm also speaking from the point of privilege where I don't work a 9 to 5. I have only worked 2 jobs for other people in my whole life, and the rest I've built myself from my creativity, from courage and a lot of self-trust, and from my music, from my art. My whole life is funded from this. All of my travels have been funded from this. I don't come from a wealthy family. I don't come from money. I don't have a trust fund. Like, my family always did well for themselves, and we always went to beach vacations and little trips to Dollywood. And, I'm so grateful for that because it gave me a chance to see something outside of my hometown. And I don't share any of what I'm going to share in this episode to brag. I just want to offer another way of living. And just a quick pause to share something really special. I am reopening my Patreon this month, which feels like a full circle moment because Patreon was actually the first platform I ever used as a creator back when I was just starting to share my music and build something on my own. And now I'm returning to it with a whole new energy, more intentional, more me. And if you've never heard of it, Patreon is a membership-based space where you can support the creators that you love and receive exclusive content in return. So on my Patreon, I'll be sharing monthly guided meditations, private podcast-style voice notes, and behind-the-scenes glimpses into my creative world that I'm not sharing anywhere else. So there are different tiers depending on what feels right for you. And it's honestly such a fun way to stay connected and help support this podcast and my work as an independent artist. So if that feels like something you'd like to be a part of, please check it out at patreon.com/BaileyNRushlow. You can also find the link down below. I really love to see you there. Okay, let's jump into today's episode. Okay, so let's dive into the first of the 6 lessons we're going to talk about in today's episode. First thing is that people are mostly good. People really are out here in the world just trying to do their best. And you experience a lot of different types of people when traveling. But I will say that the amount of times I have been helped by strangers is more than I could count. From people giving me directions to giving me meals, helping me out in situations where they didn't have to. They went out of their way to show me kindness in unexpected moments. A few stories come to mind when I think of this. So the first one is the first time I ever visited the UK. I'm in Waverley Station, the train station in Edinburgh, Scotland. And this might sound funny to someone who has grown up taking public transportation, trains and buses and whatnot, but I come from a small southern Bible Belt town in the US. Like, we don't have public transportation. You don't walk places. Like, you have to have a car, you have to drive somewhere, right? It's very, very different. So for me, being in the UK, I still am in an English-speaking country, but it feels like I'm in another planet. Like, there's a train and you have to read the 24-hour time, and it's so foreign. And I got really overheated in the train station. And I have my suitcase and my bags and my coat and I got really overwhelmed, and I actually started crying in the train station. And looking back, I'm like, oh, like poor Bailey, because I thought that I had just barely missed my train, and I was just like, oh my God, this traveling thing is really hard, and I don't know if I'm cut out for this. And I'm trying my best to show up. I'm trying my best to be on time for everything. Trying my best to read this 24-hour time. I don't know how to subtract 2 and add 10, and I was really overcomplicating it. But this guy came up to me and he was like, hey, like, are you okay? And I was like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm really embarrassed. I missed my train and I feel so silly. And he was like, are you American? I was like, yeah. And he loops his arm through mine and helps me grab my suitcase. He's like, come with me. And he helps me all the way down the escalator, and he's talking to me and like really calm, really kind. And he walks me to the ticket information booth and he goes, these people will be able to help you. All is going to be okay. And I was like, thank you so much. You're an actual angel. And he really was. I was panicking. So I get to the ticket station and the guy is like, what's the problem? I'm like, here's my ticket. I just missed it. I don't know if I can get a refund. It's an expensive ticket. I was going all the way up to the north, very north of the country. And he's like, "Oh no, honey, you're 2 hours early. Like, all is good." And I let out this, oh my God, sigh of relief. But I realized I was just not in the best headspace in that moment. I was incredibly overstimulated. But the kindness that this man showed me, it opened my heart and my soul. And I really was like, wow, people are good in this world. And no one else in the station stopped for me. I was just a random person crying in the train. Happens every day. But this guy saw me and responded. And I was so grateful for him. Another example that comes to mind of Philip and I traveling in the Philippines. And we're going way up north to this tiny island called Malapascua. And we are on a boat that I'm nearly seasick on. It was, side to side rocking. And it starts pouring. Pouring, monsoon pouring. And we get to the island and we are just, everything is soaked. The bags are soaked. We're soaked. Backpacks soaked through. Like, yeah. And I'm just worried about my laptop. I'm trying to keep my phone dry. We get to where we're going and the boat can't go to where it normally docks, so it'd be easy for us to walk to where we're going. It goes to around the whole side of the island, so we have to figure out how to get from where we are all the way to our homestay. This is not a typical island where there are like roads and streets and stuff. Like there are alleys and pathways, like foot pathways. These guys come up to us on motorcycles and they're like, "Where are you guys going? Like, we'll give you a ride." And we're like, "For real? Are you sure?" Like screaming through the rain. And they're like, "Yeah, hop on." We got on the back of their motorcycles with all of our stuff. And I don't even know how we managed it, but we told them where we were going and they start driving us. And we are driving through people's backyards, like chicken coops and goats and in the monsoon. It was a whole journey. I can barely see. I don't know how the guys driving the motorcycles are seeing. We're driving through inches of rain and mud. And we finally get to where we're going, and I turned to them. I was like, "Thank you guys so much." And I just pulled whatever money I had out in my wallet and gave it to them. And they were like, "Oh," like surprised that we would pay them. And I'm thinking, of course we would pay them. Like, they just went out of their way, picked up two total strangers on a beach and drove us halfway across the island. Like, I'm not going to not pay you, you know? They were so surprised. This is also such a testament to the kindness and sincerity of the Filipino people. Truly, they are wonderful. And we were so blessed by these guys. So people really are mostly good. I've also had experiences that were not so good with people who were not so kind. People who robbed me, people who broke into my place of living and stole things from me, people who broke into our van, ransacked our van outside of Barcelona. I've had things overpriced and cheated and bargained and all that stuff too, of course. But the goodness and the kindness of the people that have helped me far outweighs the negative experiences. And contrast is an incredible teacher. Okay, so lesson number 2, connection. Connection doesn't always need a shared language. Some of the most meaningful moments of my travels have happened with people I couldn't fully speak to. And eye contact and laughter and presence speak so much louder than words sometimes. When I first came to Mexico, I rented a little place that was right on the water. So every morning, it was like a ritual for me to wake up, make my coffee, go downstairs and onto the sand where I could sit and watch the sunrise. Oh my God, what a dream. I had never experienced anything like that at this point. And it was magical, and it was such a ritual, and it was so mine. And every morning when I would go out really early, I would see the local fishermen going out on their boats. And we learned each other's names. We'd say hi to each other. Hola, ¿qué tal? Buenos días, and it was so wholesome. And I remember one morning they came back with a huge tuna, like massive. I was like, oh my God, that is a huge fish. And we do not speak each other's language. Like there is no English spoken. There's a few words of Spanish spoken from my end, but and I was just like, wow, like really big, holding my hands up. Went on my walk down the beach like I normally did. And by the time I came back, the fish was gone. And I was like, ¿Dónde? I was like, where's the fish? And they said, oh, wait here. And went and brought back a Tupperware. And in the Tupperware was fresh made ceviche. And when I say fresh, I mean that fish was brought back on the boat an hour ago. And it was chopped up with tomato, red onion, jalapeno, with lime squeezed on top of it. And that was it. Fresh tuna. And I'm like, okay, it's a little early to be eating raw fish. But I got like 5-6 fishermen with a thing of Tupperware handing me the topos, like handing me chips that are like, try it, you like it. I'm like, I gotta try it. This is an amazing moment. I would be sad looking back if I said no to this. So I took a big bite, and it was one of the best things I have ever had. The best ceviche by far. But like one of the most quintessential Mexico moments that lives in my heart, just rent-free. And they watched me so carefully, like, does she like it? Does she like it? And I was like, es increíble. And they're like, yeah, she likes it. And it was just so wholesome. And no language was shared, but food was, and smiles were, and connection was. And it really shows you that presence speaks so much louder than words. And you don't have to be in another country to have experiences like this. It is just easier to have experiences like this because you are out of your normal comfort zone. You're not in your routine. You're not in your day-to-day, this is what I do, and this is how I do it, and this is how I drive to work, and this is the route that I take, and then I come home, and then it's like you're not in the same game anymore, and you're on a totally different rules. There is so much I could say for this one, so many stories I could share, but I want to move on to number 3, which is that joy. Joy is so simple. How many times I have teared up and smiled, recognizing the simplicity of the joy of watching kids play football together in alleyways barefoot, buying a coconut for $1 on a beach somewhere in Thailand. Travel reminds you that joy is usually free, and it's widely available when you choose to be present. I remember sitting on the beach a few years ago and watching 2 little girls play in the water, 2 sisters. They're probably 3 and 4 years old. And all they had was a plastic bag. That was it. No fancy beach toys, no expensive sandcastle making stuff. A plastic bag, like a Ziploc. And they would take turns filling it up with water and pouring it on each other's heads and covering each other in sand and then washing it off with the Ziploc full of water. They probably did that for an hour or more. And their parents are chilling, back in the beach, just watching them. And it's so beautiful how simple things can be, especially in other cultures where they might not have access or funds and finances for all of these expensive toys and gadgets and things that we have, electronics, and the life is very simple in a lot of places. I remember being in the Philippines, somewhere else. Where was it? Coron, I think. And we were staying in a really rural part of town, not touristy. We were staying around the corner from the water pump. And in this town, the water pump is where everyone goes to bathe, to wash their clothes. And it's basically, it's a water pump. That's that simple. But the houses don't often have running water. So you go to the pump to fill up buckets of water, bring it back to your house, or you just stand there in the street where this pump is and you shower, you wash your body, wash your hair, wash your kids' hair, wash your clothes. And every time I would walk past, I would just be like, wow, like these kids are so happy. And they have so little in comparison with the Western world standards of having a lot. And what we have is just, it's so normalized to have the newest things and the newest, iPhone and car and clothes and all this stuff, which is also fine. It's great if that's your thing, but like joy can be experienced with a Ziploc bag of water too. And when we bring it back down to the basics, we remember being kids ourselves. And I mean, when I was a kid, if I had like a stick and a Frisbee that I could turn upside down and make mud pies in, and like use the stick to like, attach pine needles to it and make a broom that I could sweep my treehouse out with. I mean, like, you need so little. You need so little. One of my favorite things is trying different foods and fruits, especially fruits in other countries, because there are so many that do not exist where like I'm from. Like eating tropical fruits typically need to be imported, to the States and blah, blah, blah. But living and going to, Asia, for example, and you're eating fruits that I have never seen in my life. I'm like, what is this? What is this fruit? It's so weird. Like mangosteen, it's like this hard purple shell that you crack open, and inside there's 5 white pieces of like this really tender, super sweet fruit. What? I ate my weight in mangosteen and was like, I was so happy. Anytime I would see a street vendor, I'd be like, we have to go over there. We have to get mangosteen. Just the joy that comes from those little things really lights you up. I find so much joy in watching local life unfold, like elders chatting on the front stoop and laundry waving in the breeze, hanging from building to building, and just remembering how simple and sacred the human experience can be. I love journaling, so I love to take my journal different places, maybe under a tree or by the ocean or in a little courtyard, and just writing down my thoughts. And I always write where I am in the journal, so when I look back through them, I see like I'm in the grass in St. Dunstan in London, or I'm sitting on a beach in Thailand, or I'm sitting in a little pub in Edinburgh watching it rain, looking up at Edinburgh Castle towering above the city. Or I just drank a mushroom shake on Gili T Island off Indonesia, and I'm about to go swim with sea turtles. And like, I mean, there are some incredible journal entries that I have with some amazing places titled, where I was when I wrote them. And I had a really cool experience in the Philippines when I was journaling in the cafe, and I heard myself singing on the radio. I took out my headphones and I went, oh my God, I'm playing in this cafe and I'm here. It's happened to me a couple of times before, but this was my first time being on the other side of the world and hearing myself. And I whipped out my phone really quick and I took a little video and I started tearing up in the video, and I will remember that forever. The joy that I felt hearing myself play on an island in a country on the other side of the world is a pretty crazy feeling. Jumping into number 4, home is a feeling. It's not a place. The more places that you go, the more you realize that home is an essence that you carry with you. It's in your body, it's in your rituals, it's in the people that you meet along the way. And I think we always will have this longing for home as humans. We are always searching for something, because I think we know that we've experienced so much more than just life on this earth. I believe our souls have traversed many lifetimes and many places. And we spend a lot of time looking for what home really is. And when you're on the road, you're traveling, you're experiencing new places and cultures and people and language and all the things. Home can sometimes feel really far away, and you almost feel homesick, but maybe for a place you've never been. Or you could feel like you found home within yourself. I seem to kind of oscillate between the two, between feeling homesick but not really for a place, and feeling like home is within me. And it's an interesting dichotomy. But I've learned that it's not about the geography. It's about how my body feels. It's about safety and feeling alive and presence. And sometimes home can feel like cooking your own favorite food in another country. Or maybe meeting someone that you have a friend in common with from your hometown, you know? Or, I mean, that literally happened to me. I was again, in Scotland. A lot of Scotland memories. And day one, I had just arrived and I sat down at this cafe. I was like, can I just get a table? And they're like, sorry, all we have is the community table. I'm like, oh, great, the community table. You know, I wasn't really into that at that point in my traveling days. It was day one of my first ever solo trip. And I was like, I just want to sit at a table by myself. I just got off a 10-hour flight. I'm tired. I'm jet lagged. It's 6 a.m, you know. They're like, well, the community table has some spaces available. So I sit down at this table across from this woman. We start conversation. She tells me she's from California. I'm from Tennessee. And we somehow discover that my neighbors are her clients. I'm not even kidding you. The people that live like across the street from me in my hometown are clients of hers. And I couldn't believe it. And we started this beautiful friendship. And she was leaving Scotland that day, but she took me around and showed me some of the old town, and we walked the Royal Mile together, and it was just it was beautiful, and it made me feel like home. In that moment, home was an essence, an energy, and we co-created it together. And I see it when my partner meets someone from Bavaria, or even from his specific, town and region and dialect, that knows specific German words that nobody else in Germany would ever know. Even people from a few, kilometers away might not even know it, but they do. And it's like they're speaking in code. I mean, it's so cool. And it really is this sense of home and of remembrance. And I love that. I think it's very cool to be out there in the world and knowing that you could find home in all different places and people and faces and memories and foods, and most importantly, within yourself. Number 5 is you are more adaptable than you think. This takes me back to what we were saying earlier with normally we live our lives on autopilot. We make the same routes through our life, going to work, going to school, going to church, going to whatever. It's the same thing over and over and over and over again. And we're just living on autopilot, And when you travel, your brain is constantly exposed to new stimuli. So unfamiliar languages, foods, smells, landscapes, cultural norms that you're not used to. This is a crazy activator of neuroplasticity. We learned about neuroplasticity a few episodes ago. The brain's ability to change, to grow, to heal. When you're traveling, you are forcing your brain to build new neural pathways instead of relying on the familiar ones that you usually have in your daily routine. We see this when we are making decisions in new environments, like which train do I take on the subway, or even ordering food in another language, which helps to strengthen your problem-solving skills. But it teaches you to be present because it is unpredictable. When you are in a new place, you have to look up. You have to ask questions. You have to pay attention. You have to look at the street signs. You have to watch where you're going. It feels like your senses are awake again for the first time. It feels like your body is alive in real time. And it's kind of humbling and it's refreshing. And it's something we don't really do a lot when we're just at home, where everything is regular. It pulls you out of autopilot and into presence. A few years ago, I was living in Malta and I wanted to fly to the UK to go to Stonehenge and spend the summer solstice there because there's a huge celebration. And it's one of the few days of the year where they actually remove the rope barriers and let you go next to the stones. Like you can touch the stones and be right there next to them. And I was like, I have to experience this. So I thought, I don't know how I'm going to get there though, because I don't know, I'm going to fly into London and then I want to be at Stonehenge for sunrise, and it's hours away from London. I have no idea how to do this. But I also want to go to Glastonbury, this other beautiful, ancient, incredible portal in the UK. And it's not that far from Stonehenge. It's still like, hour and a half, 2 hour drive. But I'm going to figure this out. And so I literally got on Instagram and was looking up posts of people who had been in the previous years. And I saw a post from this one woman who was like, Stonehenge is incredible. I love going every year. I love living in my van, blah, blah, blah. I was like, okay, she seems cool. So I literally sent this stranger a message and said, hi, I'm interested in going to Stonehenge for the solstice. Do you have any recommendations on how to get there? She's like, well, I live in my van, so normally I just drive there. And you're welcome to come with me if you want to. I was like, you know what? 100%. New opportunity, new adventure. I'm adaptable. I can do this. So I flew to the UK, took a train to Glastonbury, spent a couple days there, met up with this girl in the middle of the night, her and her friend, and we drove all together out to Stonehenge and got to see the sun rise between the stones. And it was absolutely magical. There were people drumming. There were people of all different nations and cultures and languages singing in, welcoming the sun, welcoming in the longest day of the year, welcoming in a point when our ancestors would have been celebrating for millennia. And I just had this moment of standing there with these thousands of people in celebration of this beautiful day, celebrating the earth. And I thought, wow, if I hadn't taken that risk and been adaptable, I might not be here right now. And you know what we did? We spent the rest of the day going to different stone circles around this part of England. And we also found my very first crop circle, which is one of the coolest things I've ever seen in the history of ever. It was otherworldly. It was larger than life. It was a massive sun shape that was carved into this field. And when I say carved, I mean no human-made machine could have done what we found and what we walked into. The way that the wheat was laid down in this pattern, in a perfect spiral, in a perfect swirl. Like, it would have taken a human weeks to do what we found that popped up overnight. Otherworldly, magical. Taught me to be adaptable, laying in the center of a crop circle on the solstice in England with two strangers that are now my friends. That is some crazy stuff. And a lot of my travels have been made up of memories like that. And I would need a much longer podcast episode to tell you all of them. But this leads us to the last and final one, number 6. The world is both bigger and smaller than we can imagine. It's crazy to realize how vast this planet really is. I have so many languages, so many landscapes and customs and histories that you've never even heard of. And yet, at the same time, you really see how deeply connected we all are because we all want the same things. We all want love and safety and purpose and belonging. And sometimes you meet strangers who feel like old friends, and sometimes you meet strangers who feel like old friends, which is weird when you have old friends who now feel like strangers. And the world really stretches your imagination, and it minimizes your sense of separation, because separation really is an illusion. We are all connected. Everything is connected. And it's crazy how things can be true at once. Like 2 things can be true. You could feel alone, but not lonely. You could feel like you miss a sense of home, and yet you are home in your own body. Or maybe you wish you just knew where to go and where to walk and not have to look at your maps all the time. But then also, that's the fun of it. Getting lost. Finding yourself in a weird part of town and realizing this is Paris, baby. I can go anywhere. I can do anything. I can be anyone. The dichotomy is crazy. And I think this is what helps expand our awareness of ourselves and of the world. I'll never forget, a few years ago, I met a woman on the beach and we were wearing the same bikini. And she came up to me and was like, "Hey, we have the same bikini." I was like, "Oh, hey, look at that." The next day we went on a road trip together. The next day we got tattoos together. A few months later, we got certified in scuba diving together. In my normal Bailey life, that shit would never happen. But traveling opened my mind and opened my perspective to that being a totally possible timeline for me. And when I say it to someone, it might sound insane. But when I tell it to a traveler, they're like, "Oh yeah, cool." They're not even fazed. Not even like, "Wow, that's a little crazy." I'm like, "No, that's just experiencing. That's just adventuring," right? So I'm curious if any of the stories or any of these things that I've shared about travel have inspired you, made you question something, made you remember something from your travels, given you a spark of life. I want to give you 3 mindset shifts that you can incorporate into your life to travel deeper and also cheaper. So I had someone ask me this week, they're like, "How do you afford to travel so much? Like how and why and where and how do you choose where to go and just all the things?" I said, the first thing is to shift your mindset from escape to immersion. So instead of asking just where can I go on a vacation, think where can I go to expand myself? Where can I stay a little longer? Where can I learn from locals who are going to give me more experience than a resort ever could? And there's nothing wrong with going on a vacation to relax. That is awesome. If that sparks you and makes you feel alive, go for it. Enjoy it. Enjoy every moment. But if you're looking to travel like what I've been talking about in this episode, deeper, immersive experiences, it's not about escaping your life back home. It's about how can I expand and activate my mind, my body, my heart? How can I say yes to every opportunity that feels aligned with me? And the second thing is you don't need to be rich. You just need to be creative, okay? So For example, I wanted to live in the UK. It's very expensive to live in the UK. Here's how I did it. This idea came into my world of house sitting. What if I could go somewhere, not pay rent, not pay for accommodation, Airbnb, cleaning fees, and all this other stuff, and just I could house sit or pet sit for someone who already lives in the place I want to go to, and they're on a trip, and I can stay in their house for free. That sounds like a plan. So I got on this website called Trusted House Sitters. This is not an ad. I'm just sharing literally what I have done around the world. I have traveled to many different countries doing this. It's an amazing experience. And I'm also going to put a link in the show notes where you can get 2 months for free off of the membership fee. So that's my only plug. But that's an amazing way to expand your awareness. I wanted to go to the UK and live there, but it's too expensive. What if I house sit? So I literally house sat for months, back to back, all around England. And it was amazing. And I got to do it for free. You're not getting paid for it, but you're getting to stay in someone's home in exchange for watching their pets. It's such a great travel hack. You can also travel to countries with a lower cost of living, like Southeast Asia or Portugal. Rather than going somewhere that's really expensive and overpriced, travel somewhere that has a lower cost of living. This will cut down on your expenses a lot. Also, flying with budget airlines or tracking flight deals with tools like Google Flights, using DuckDuckGo to look for flights that doesn't track your history, so you're able to search for flights without the airlines jacking up the price. If you're just looking for flights on regular websites, it's storing all of that information of your searches, and it's actually raising the prices when you go back to look at flights next time. So avoid that. I just booked a flight from New York to the UK for $260. So direct, nonstop. Another option, if you're a bit more flexible, is doing programs like Workaway or World Packers, where you volunteer in exchange for housing. My partner Philip did that, living in New Zealand for 9 months, working on random projects and farms and all kinds of stuff in exchange for housing. New Zealand's expensive, and having to pay for 9 months of accommodation there would cost a lot of money. And he was quite young when he went there, so it would have been impossible, for him to go as a student. But he could go volunteer in exchange for housing. You will be shocked how far your money can stretch when you stop needing luxury. You don't need to stay in the beachfront place. You can stay in town and walk or take a taxi, right? Okay, and now the third and final piece of this episode is that home can move with you. I see a lot of people waiting to travel until they have everything figured out. I have to have the perfect amount of savings and the perfect plan, and I need a partner to do it all with. And what about my cat? And what if home wasn't a fixed place or the perfect setup, but something that you can carry with you? When you know how to create comfort and ritual and grounding wherever you go, then you stop waiting for the quote right time, because that doesn't exist, and you just start living now. I think this mindset absolutely changed my life and freed me up to travel more slowly, more meaningfully, more often. A lot of people have no idea how I could travel for half the year. I don't even know how I could travel for half the year. I actually don't think I'll be doing that anymore, because that is too long for me. I think 1, 2, even 3 months is good. And then I'm like, okay, I'm good. I'm ready to go back into a place where I can have my projects. That's a really big thing for me. So I make kombucha, and I want to make banana bread, and I want to have my sewing machine, and I'm making, clay art and painting, and my music studio. And there's all these things that are harder to travel around with. And I have done it. I have. But having done that for a long time, living on the road, doing these things, I am really enjoying this season of being in one place and getting to live and record and sit in my home with my cat and make this podcast episode. And after this, I'm going to go make some dinner and probably hang out with a friend and watch This Is Us and sleep in my bed. And that is really, really nice, especially from having been on the road for a while, you know? But I can say that because I have already experienced what it feels like to be on the go for many, many months at a time in many different cultures and many different languages. And now this is my season to create stillness and softness and slowness. And do I do that on the road? Yes. Is it possible to do on the road? 100%. I would not have survived if I couldn't have done that on the road. I'm not like going from place to place to place, you know? I'm taking it slow. I really love slow travel. That is a big thing to me. I don't like to get to a city and go, okay, I've only got 3 days. I have to figure out everything I'm going to do. No, I like to fly to a city and know that I have a week, 2 weeks, however long I want. Maybe some things are booked and prepared. Most of the time, I don't like to book anything in advance, which was not the case for me when I first started traveling. I was like, I need a plan. I need to know the flights. I need to know the details and the hotels and I need a full itinerary. I need everything on a Google Doc. Like, I was so prepared. And then I met Philip, world traveler who took his first flight by himself when he was 4 years old, who does not plan anything. He books his flight and that's it. He's like, I'll figure the rest out when I get there. And he met me, who has everything on a Google Doc. And I was like, okay, we don't have to do the Google Doc thing, but I also cannot just show up to a city and not know anything. Like, he didn't even know where he's going to stay that night. And I was like, okay, we need to compromise, like meet in the middle, you know? So he actually helped me so much loosen up my grip on what I thought travel had to be. And I helped him create a little bit more structure in his travel to optimize his time. And I think we balance each other out really well. So we travel really well together. And it's nice to have someone like that you do feel confident and free to travel with. So although I am a huge, huge advocate for solo travel, and I definitely think everyone should, if you can at some point, if you're able to. But I also love being able to travel with someone that you feel so confident with, that you feel comfortable with, that you can totally unmask with and be yourself with. And it's going to be aware of you if you get overstimulated, if you feel overwhelmed, if something is not the right environment for you, that you can agree that you're on the same page. And I think that's also really important when you're traveling. Also, traveling in groups can be really fun, but you have a lot more variables that way, with what different people prioritize, what different people's schedules are and needs and preferences. So it might take some trial and error to figure out what you like and what you want in your travels. But if anything, I would really recommend, if you do have the opportunity to go somewhere by yourself, do it. Sit in that cafe alone. Sit in that park by yourself. Go to that ABBA disco night and dance. Speaking from personal experience. Take the train. Break down in the train station if you have to. Everything will be okay, but if you need to feel it, feel it all. Laugh with the kids playing football in the streets and breathe in all of the smells and all of the foods and all of the people and all of the love and all of the romance and all of the joy that awaits you outside of your autopilot, normal, everyday life. Because you will learn so much about yourself. And I'm excited for you. I really am. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with me today. And if today's episode spoke to something in you, please feel free to share it with a friend who you think would also resonate, or leave a review. It helps more than you know. And if you want to support the podcast and go deeper into the work that I'm sharing, you can now join me on Patreon. Each month, I offer guided meditations, private voice notes, and little glimpses behind the scenes of my creative world. It's a really beautiful way to stay connected. So I'll be back next Tuesday with another episode. And until then, open heart, open mind, stay curious.